moment, folks. Bear with me. Technical difficulties. Yay! Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're about to go back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but first, the usual disclaimers, and I want you to put your all hands together and clap because we survived this word salad. This particular video is covering the last paragraph of this gigantic, freaking, horrid word salad so-called defense of Dr. Matthew Israel. So give yourself some applause if you've watched all of these videos because it's been special. It's been real special. All right, now to the disclaimers. In the description box, folks, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much. They have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. Also in there included is NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case the JRC actually sees through with their threat. Excuse me. Retying my shoe here. Please enjoy the Friday the 13th pajama pants for workout time. I regret nothing. Also included in there is the article from Ozarks First in regards to the Stone for Help Agape boarding school, now known as Stone for Help situation, a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has and pending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor who still lives on the premises, full access to the boys up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy chasing after drag queens and trying and failing to defund public libraries to actually do his job. And you got a governor. What can I say about my governor? Get me out of here. Please read that article. Share it on all your social media. Also included in there, of course, all the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, and the ever-present self-explanatory Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, folks, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of peoples with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, folks, please go ahead. Use your headphones, all right? All right. Now, this channel, trigger warning, is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is advised. Another trigger warning. Square your shoulders for this last paragraph, for we are about to descend once more into the mad ravings of the lunatic mind known as Dr. Matthew Israel. God help us all. Universe, whatever's out there, send help. You're going to hear gaslighting, victim blaming, pseudoscience, lies, abuse and torture apologencia, all from a man with a massive ego and even larger God complex. So, folks, prepare yourselves for the stupid. All right. Last paragraph. MDRI's appeal must be rejected. There is overwhelming evidence of the safety and effectiveness of adversive interventions and their use at JRC, including over 113 scientific peer-reviewed journal articles, judicial findings in hundreds of court cases, eyewitness testimonials from present and former JRC parents, and the successful licensing and supervision of JRC by numerous state agencies. Well, that was a whole lot of lies. Let's start with the 113 peer-reviewed journal articles. Every single one of those 113 so-called peer-reviewed journal articles that are dated after that of 1983 have been done exclusively by the JRC. Every single one of them. Every single one of them, you were the head doctor. Every single doctor that assisted you with those so-called studies are on your payroll. None of those articles were peer-reviewed by anyone outside of the JRC. I read Psychology Today, sir. Have since the 90s, and I was a kid, and I had to, read them inside Barnes & Noble. I regret nothing. I can tell you, point blank, nothing after 1983 has actually been peer-reviewed. All the studies done outside of the JRC are not listed as conclusive until the results can be repeated. All major other organizations within the medical model have point blank refused and have stated openly on media multiple times as to why they will not also do studies on the so-called success of your adversive insanity. Because it's unethical as hell. That is a lie, doctor. A lie you've been called out on publicly over and over and over again. That is a lie. Judicial findings. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about judicial findings, shall we? In a court of law, you were ordered, the year you put out this word salad, to provide video surveillance footage of what happened in 2006 to those two boys that were shocked 71 times each. You told staff to destroy that footage, which is why, doctor, you are no longer the head of the JRC, because as part of a plea bargain, you agreed to step down from the organization to avoid jail time. Judicial findings. What have we found in judicial findings? You've fought us, doctor, tooth and nail for over a decade to block us from getting that Andre McCollins video. The court finally allowed it in 2012, and it went viral. Funny about court findings and what you get up to behind closed doors, your so-called safe interventions, right? Interesting. Let's talk about the 2006 court case. You know, the one that got you in trouble. And the fact that the reason why New York felt the need to do those unannounced visits was the numerous, abnormally large amount of DESI report claims that were being backed up by ER documents that were backed up by that 2006 court case that had those visits taking place. Funny, right? You have paid off witnesses, you have paid off judges, you have paid off politicians. The rabbit hole goes so deep, I don't even know where the bottom is. Your eyewitness testimonials can be very easily determined in a court of law to be done under duress, which would mean they would be unadmissible in any court case worth its salt. Those so-called testimonials where those kids write in, I'm supposed to believe that those were spontaneous love for the JRC. Kids still live with their parents who signed them up for the program in the first place, doctor. You still allow them to be able to threaten their kids by a parent's own words with those same devices. Excuse me if I don't go out and sing your praises on the public square. The licensing and supervision of the JRC, I'm glad you brought that up too, because we all know why that is. And it's not because you're just so super duper safe. It's because you got the organization that oversees you over a barrel and you know it. Departments like mine in my state, unlike the JRC, do not have access to unlimited funds to be able to fight these types of things in court. It's expensive. Most of these departments and organizations like mine at DMH operate off of a very, very low shoestring budget that gets gutted more and more every single year. You understand that, don't you, doctor? Because I do. Again, I'm your worst nightmare. I've worked this field. I've worked specifically in that State Department. I know what funds they have and what funds they don't from upfront, close, and personal experience. All right? Please spare me. The reason why they keep signing off on it is you hold that 1986 consent decree over their heads like the sword of Damocles. And they, on their shoestring budget with no access to unlimited funds, do not have the money or resources to be able to fight you. It's not an endorsement. God's sake, but let's read on, shall we? All of this highly credible evidence stands in sharp contrast to the MDRI report, which is clearly just a collection of unproven allegations. It's based on over 4 decades of receipts, sir. How are you calling ER documents uncredible? DESI reports. A State Department investigated you, sir. But all the evidence is on our side. Evidence that you cooked up. All studies on so-called adversives that you tout as evidence that it is life-saving that come after 1983 all come from the JRC. They are not featured in any, and I can say this with a certain amount of authority, literally any major study in any major medical magazine, period. You cannot take your cooked up data as a biased stakeholder with your staff that you pay from your pocket, present it as evidence and state yourself as a source when you're the one investigated. That's not how any of this works. I don't understand how this is hard to understand. That's not evidence, doctor. You have a dog in the fight. Therefore, any data that you display coming out of your center, the so-called peer review being the doctors and the clinicians whose paychecks you signed, is not peer reviewed. Okay? It's not. It's not credible. It would not be allowed in a court of law. It should not be allowed in media because it's a crock. What the MDRI has, folks, is cold hard evidence. Surveillance footage, ER documents, DESI reports, reports from state governments that Dr. Matthew Israel has been kicked out of, where investigators found signs of abuse. His evidence is studies he cooked up himself that he calls peer-reviewed because the people he pays agrees with him. That's not credible evidence. If this was supposed to be a court case, you would be laughed out of the door. Accordingly, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture, the Obama administration, and the U.S. Department of Justice should reject the MDRI's appeal and decline to take any action. What makes you think you can dictate to any of these people? Because you can't, doctor. You can't. We have hard, cold evidence. You have cooked up data from your circle of crackpots. I don't know how to make it more clear, the difference. We're going to close out on that, folks. We don't get very many reviews on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.